What is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in for another video today. Today we're going to be talking about a trigger, specifically this trigger here in this lower. It's the Arsenal line products 2-stage AR-15 trigger. I bought this one about 3 years ago from Brownells for $92. It's currently listed on their site for $114, and it's also on back order. I don't know, I haven't checked the stock, see if it's in stock in a while, so I don't know if they don't offer it anymore. That is an option to keep in mind. But when I was looking to purchase this trigger, and still to this day, I just did a brief check. There doesn't seem to be much information about these online, and it seems like not a lot of people have them. And I recall wanting to find some information, maybe some reviews on it when I was looking to buy this one, and I couldn't. So hopefully this video will serve some utility to anyone looking for information on it. Hopefully if somebody's looking to buy this, they find their way here. I can kind of share some of my opinions and information that I've acquired with this trigger. Had it for quite a while. So we'll start with feel. I'm sure that's probably what most people are interested in seeing. So we can go ahead and just first start with a quick trigger pull here and just show you this. Let me get in front of the camera. So you can see it breaks pretty cleanly. The first stage takes up and hits a wall really nicely. You can actually hear it click probably as it hits that wall. The wall is really solid. And then when you move into the second stage, there's a little more travel, probably a millimeter or so, if even. A little more travel before it breaks. So it's not a perfect clean break after you hit the wall. That's probably kind of to be expected from a trigger of this price. This is a more budget-oriented 2-stage trigger. On another note, it did come, I recall when I got it, a little gritty. And that's probably just due to a cheaper finish that they use on this trigger. But for whatever it was, it ended up working itself out after about 200 rounds, and today it feels a lot smoother. It's listed at a 4-pound pull. I don't have a trigger scale with me, so you will have to just take my word for what it's worth to you. But I would say that's probably pretty accurate, maybe a little closer to 4.5. It's not probably a true 2-2 split, meaning 2 in the first stage and 2 in the second. I would guess it's probably closer to 1.5 in the first stage and then 2.5 to 3 in the second. The second feels a little stiffer to me. But so we can talk a little bit about durability. Not too much to talk about. We mentioned it's made of 8620 steel, so you shouldn't have any issues there. But for what it's worth to you, I have let's see, about 800 rounds on this trigger specifically through various rifles. It's sat in a few now, and never had any issues with light primer strikes. In fact, never had one. So the springs seem to be of enough power to keep those kind of things from happening. One thing worth noting is the hammer spring did come on backwards. So I'll roll an image here from Brownells. This is what your hammer spring should look like. If you're curious, you can compare to this picture. And then I'll turn the flash on here and we can show you inside the receiver. So here we've got the trigger, and this one is installed correctly. So what you should see is the spring. Here's your hammer spring. It should start from the bottom of this coil and then move towards the pin. If your spring was on backwards like mine, it will come from the top of this coil down to the pin. Let me get the pencil out of the way. It'll start from here, the top of the coil, and then move down to the pin, but you can see there the spring comes out of the bottom of the coil. That's how it should be. If you purchase one of these or any 2-stage trigger that's of this format and it doesn't look that way, make sure to flop it around. It probably will function, but the telltale sign for me that I figured it out when I got it was the trigger pin. You could just push it out with your finger, and that was due to, since that top pin was coming down at an angle onto the pin, it wasn't seating the trigger pin correctly. But once we flip that around, no issues there. So I guess now we can move into the discussion of value. Obviously, it's not as nice as like a Timney or a Geisley trigger. However, for half of or even a third of the price in some instances, I don't know if those triggers are 2 or 3 times as good as this one. If you're shooting like a precision competition maybe, or if you're that excellent of a shooter perhaps, but I would bet for most people this trigger is more than adequate for shooting any sort of accurate groups. Yeah, I mean, of course those triggers are better and they'll likely be more crisp. You'll probably not have that that creep into the second stage. But again, you got to consider value. I feel that this trigger probably has a higher value than those. I don't think there's too many people that actually can milk that extra accuracy out of a super crisp trigger. I don't know. This is just my opinion, so take it for what it's worth. We'll talk about now, would I buy it again? And I think the answer is no, only for the reason that now Palmetto State Armory offers a nickel boron 2-stage trigger for around $80. And I have not had one of those triggers, but if I had to buy another budget 2-stage trigger, that's what I think that's what I would go with. This one at 115 is getting pretty pricey for what you're getting. There's a lot of reviews on the Palmetto State Armory nickel boron that they seem to really enjoy it, think it's worth it. So I think if I had to get another budget trigger, I would go that way. You get the nickel boron coating and save yourself about $30. That being said, I don't have plans to swap this out. I don't plan to upgrade it or swap it for the PSA one, just noting that if I were to get another trigger, I don't think this is the highest value budget 2-stage trigger anymore. At the time of purchase, I believe it was one of the cheaper ones I found that seemed of quality, but I think Palmetto State Armory's nickel boron will edge this one out in the value budget 2-stage trigger arena. That being said, that's kind of my opinions on this trigger. Like I said, there's not much out there online about these, so hopefully if you're looking for one or curious about it, you found your way here and found this video of some use to you. But that being said, if you liked the video, make sure to drop a like on it. If you didn't, drop a dislike and let me know why. But other than that, that's all I got. So thanks for watching.